Let us discuss the graph of a quadratic function. We look at point A, point B, point C, and point D. This graph is given by y is equal to 2x squared minus 6x minus 8. Point A and point B are called the x-intercept. So these are points where the curve is cutting the x-axis. So this is our x-axis. Our curve is cutting on 2 points on the x-axis at point A and point B. So we call these the x-intercept. Point D is the y-intercept of the curve. This is where our graph is cutting the y-axis. Point C is the turning point of the curve. So as you can see, our curve is making a turn here. So this is the turning point at C. So this point C, we can also make a line of symmetry at this point C. So this line which we make at point C here, we call it the axis of symmetry, or the equation of axis of symmetry. Now let us find the coordinates for these different points. To find the coordinates of point A and point B, we use the formula x is equal to negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac over 2a, like that. So as you can see from this formula, we are trying to find the value of x. This makes sense because point A and point B are on the x-axis. So we want to find the values of x at point A and point B. So notice that this formula has two operations. There is plus or minus. So it means that we are going to have two values of x when we use this formula. So let us find the values, or the values of x at point A and point B. So to use this formula, we are going to get the coefficients from this equation. So this number which is in front of x squared is called a. So we're going to say a is equal to this number 2. Then our b is this number, which is negative 6. So we say b is equal to negative 6. Then our c is negative 8, also known as the constant. And remember, when you are getting these coefficients from your equation, you don't get the variable, you just get the coefficient. So here, just extract the 2, don't get the x squared. So we have a is equal to 2, our b is negative 6, and our c is negative 8. So you can see from this formula, we can just do the substitution. So in this formula, where there's a in this formula, we replace 2, since our a is 2. Then where there's b in this formula, we replace negative 6. Where there's a c, we replace negative 8. So let us do that. So we have x is equal to, we have this negative, like that. Then we open parenthesis, b. So our b is negative 6. So this b has a negative, we take it together with a negative. So we do that substitution like that, followed by plus or minus. So we have plus and minus. Then the square root, like that. Now we have this b squared. So our b squared, we check the value of b here is -6. So where there's b squared, we open first, we do that. Then we get our -6 square, like that. It has a square. So we square minus 4. Our a here is 2. So we remove the a, we open parenthesis, we substitute the 2. Then we have open parenthesis, our c is -8. So together with the sign, we replace -8 like that. Then everything over 2a. So our a here, our a is -2. So where there's a, we put, our a is +2, right? So we put the 2 like that. Now we just have to simplify this so that we can find the two values of x. So let us simplify. We have x is equal to negative times negative, positive. So here we have +6, then plus and minus. Then we have the square root, like that. -6 squared, this means -6 times -6. So -6 times -6, we get +36. So we have +36. Then we multiply here. So we have -4 times 2. We get -8. And that -8 times -8, we get +64. Like that. So ensure that you follow the procedure very well. So we have -4 times 2, we get -8. -8 times -8, we get +64. Then over 2 times 2, we get 4. We can simplify this expression further. So we have x is equal to 6 plus or minus square root. Then we add these two numbers. So 36 plus 64, we get 100. So 100 inside of the square root. Then everything divided by 4, like that. Let us simplify. X is equal to 6 plus and minus. The square root of 100 is 10, because 10 times 10 is equal to 100. So the square root of 100 is 10. So we have our 10 here, then over 4, like that. So you notice that on top we have two operations, 6 plus 10, the other one is 6 minus 10. So here we're going to separate them. So we're going to have two values of x. The first value of x, let us call it x1. So x1 is equal to this 6, the plus 10, everything divided by 4. Then we have another value of x, let us call it x2, which is equal to 6. This time we're using a minus. So it will be 6 minus 10 divided by 4. Let us simplify. 6 plus 10, 16 over 4. On the other side, we have 6 minus 10. We get -4. over 4. So if you don't know how to simplify integers, you can watch my other tutorial videos on integers. Let us see, divide 16 divided by 4, we get 4. Then here we have 4 divided by 4, we get -1 here. This is -4 divided by 4. So these are the two values of x. This is our x1 and this is our x2. So you can see here that one value is a positive value, then the other one is a negative value. So this positive value 4 on our curve, it's the value of x, it will be here. So this is the number which is supposed to be here. So we have 4 here. Then -1